Hey, what is up, everybody?
And welcome back to Mile Higher Podcast, episode 337. And today, guys, we're back to Diddy. And it's been a while. I can't believe it. For some reason, I think I have no concept of time, like since my daughter was born. I don't know why, but I thought we covered this in November. But it's actually been almost a year, like 11 months since we last talked about Diddy.
April of 2024.
Wow, that's so crazy. But so much has happened since then. And as we were going through what has happened since our last recording, there were so many things that I thought that we had already talked about, but maybe had talked about on other shows or just, had read about. There is so much to go over. And since the trial is coming up very soon in May, unless it's delayed, but it looks like it probably won't be. So we thought it'd be a good time to fill you guys in on everything that's happened since our last episode, which if you haven't seen our first episode, you'll probably be really confused unless you're up to date on your own. So we'll definitely have the first Diddy coverage linked below, which is a really long episode where we went over a lot of disturbing things. And again, we are going through a lot of disturbing details today. So just a heads up there before we get into things. But yeah, lots to go over. Very, very...
Lots of lawsuits.
Freaky. Yeah.
Tons of lawsuits.
Not looking good
Leaked
for Diddy.
Jail call. We have a lot of victims coming forward telling their stories on docuseries and also filing lawsuits that are revealing a lot of new details that we didn't know before. And shit just gets scarier and scarier. I mean, this guy is just an absolute demon.
Yeah, he
monster.
Really is. Yep. That's like the best way to describe him. He is
Diabolical.
Such a vile, sorry excuse for a human being. And yeah, speaking of that, what was that docuseries on it's called Fall of Diddy.
Yeah.
That is really well done. And if you want to hear directly from victims, I would definitely check that out. Especially the last two episodes really have some very, disturbing but important interviews, hearing right from the people that
former
experienced
personal assistant to Diddy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shocking stuff, which we'll go through. There's tons of screenshots that have come out of texts involving Diddy. I mean, just so much to go over today that we're not going to waste any time. We're just going to get right into things and pick up where we left off on our last Diddy episode. Take it away.
So where we left off, we covered Diddy after massive Homeland Security raids targeted at his Florida and California homes. And at that point, Diddy had been the subject of at least two lawsuits, one by Rodney or Lil Rod Jones, who produced Diddy's latest album, Love Off the Grid, and another by his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. So Lil Rod's lawsuit, the first of what would become many civil suits against Diddy, alleged a culture of sexual harassment, sex trafficking through Miami clubs, underage drinking, pedophilia, laced drinks, and shootouts during studio sessions that were covered up by paid-off police officers. In his lawsuit, he alleged that Diddy constantly sexually harassed him and brought him to events to be sexually harassed by associates like the family of his then-girlfriend, Young Miami, and also actor Cuba Gooding Jr. He also alleged that after months of Diddy asking for sexual favors from Lil Rod, he awoke one morning in bed with Diddy and a young sex worker. He also alleged that Diddy had a thorough sex trafficking operation in which he and others were instructed to visit Miami clubs wearing custom bad boy entertainment hats to alert the workers that Diddy was in town. Allegedly, some of these sex workers would be transported across state lines and international borders. He also alleged that Diddy refused to pay him for his years-long work on the album. He talks about that a lot in the Fall of Diddy series too, and how he basically got in his face and was like, I'm not going to give you any money for this. And he basically just had to do it.
Yeah, scummy in every way possible.
Like he didn't have the money to pay someone who works on his album, produces his fucking album. It's insane.
Well, and like full time for over a year, I believe. I think maybe even 2 years. Like this was his only source of income for that entire time.
Just what a
clearly just trying to fuck him over. Well, not only that, he alleged that Diddy ran his various businesses as a racketeering enterprise with his various associates like assistant and quote right hand Christina Coram and alleged drug mule Brendan Paul, who was working with Diddy to accomplish his criminal goals in sexual harassment, drug trafficking, sex trafficking, and the alleged sexual abuse of minors. While Diddy and his lawyers denied all of these claims, and as far as we're aware, the suit is still ongoing, it would be one of the subsequent lawsuits that seemed to have spawned the criminal investigation into Diddy's empire. Cassie filed her lawsuit on November 16, 2023, and accused Diddy of sexual assault, battery, and sex trafficking that required her to engage in forced sexual acts for his pleasure. We now know that the acceptance speech for Diddy's 2022 BET Lifetime Achievement Award, in which he thanked Cassie, quote, for holding me down during the dark times, actually spawned her lawsuit. Well, when talking about Cassie's 35-page lawsuit, it details their decade-long relationship during which Diddy initially met under professional circumstances to sign her up for Bad Boy Entertainment after she released her single, Me and You. She described how Diddy tried multiple times to turn their business relationship into a romantic one, even though she already had a boyfriend. However, Cassie eventually relented after Diddy made up a fake event in Florida for Cassie to headline and gave her, quote, more drugs than she had ever done in her life, and the two would be romantically linked over the next 9 years.
And throughout their relationship, Diddy would fly into these fits of rage, viciously beating Cassie in the back of his cars driven by his staff. Also in public at various parties that he attended that were also attended by the Hollywood elite, and in various hotel suites in New York, Los Angeles, and Miami. Sometimes the effects of the beatings were so severe that Diddy would force Cassie to go into hiding at one of his various homes across the country until the wounds would heal, which is something that we did bring up in the last episode as well. One time, while Cassie was staying at Diddy's Los Angeles mansion following a beating, she and Diddy were on a FaceTime call in which he told her to put on more makeup because, quote, my son can't see you like that. Scum. Cassie also alleged one beating that took place at a hotel in Los Angeles in 2016. She alleged that Diddy had punched her in the face, resulting in a black eye. And while Diddy took a shower, Cassie attempted to escape. However, Diddy ran into the hallway wearing only a towel, slammed her to the ground, kicked her violently, tried to drag her back into that hotel room, and then hurled hotel vases at her, leading to glass shattering everywhere right in the hotel hallway. And there is this security footage, which I could have sworn was released last time we did the episode, but no, it came out when?
In May, so just a month after we did ours.
Okay. I think we had talked about it on maybe the sesh or something, and we're not going to play that video for you because it's horrific, but it's also all over the internet if you want to see it for yourself. But it is so disturbing, so upsetting, especially the fact that she's barefoot. You can tell that she's just completely panicked leaving that room. And then as soon as he throws her down to the ground right in front of the elevators, she just kind of goes into this fetal position. And you can tell she's experienced this over and over. And who even knows what happened once he brought her back into the hotel room. And he offered that hotel $100,000 for the surveillance footage. And it was assumed that the tape of the alleged assault was forever lost.
And it's disgusting that the hotel just accepted this $100,000 payment for this footage rather than reporting this violent crime to the police.
Yep.
Cassie's lawsuit is also where we learned about Diddy's alleged sexual behavior and further instances of sex trafficking through what he called freak-offs. A freak-off would allegedly involve Cassie and another male sex worker who Diddy would sometimes transport over state lines and take place in various hotel suites in New York, Los Angeles, Miami, and probably all sorts of other places. And Diddy would force Cassie to have sex with the sex worker, while all of them took copious amounts of various drugs, including cocaine, ketamine, and GHB. Diddy would then, quote-unquote, direct the freak-offs, filming them, masturbating to them, and then saving the footage to hold as blackmail over Cassie. It's also essential to note that both Cassie and Lil Rod alleged that Diddy had terabytes worth of footage of celebrities engaging in these freak-offs. Lil Rod also alleged that minors were depicted in the footage. And to put that into perspective, there are over 1,000 gigabytes in a terabyte. And when you think about an average video file, depending on the quality of that video, we're talking, it could be anywhere. If it was a 4K video, it could be like 20 gigs. But on average, if it was like a 1080p video, we're talking only maybe like 3 to maybe 10 gigs. So you talk about thousands of gigabytes of footage. We're talking about massive amounts of videos being recorded of these assaults.
And it's possible that some of this will be played in court.
Right.
We're not sure yet, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what information comes out about these celebrities. And I know that, you know, people, when you bring up minors, people are talking about Justin Bieber and other people as well. And who really knows?
Well, let's not forget that these freak-offs would last for hours and even days, with Diddy forcing Cassie to take more drugs to force herself to continue having sex. Oftentimes, Diddy would have an IV drip ready for Cassie and the male sex worker to replenish their fluids after the freak-off had finished. Sometimes the freak-offs would result in tens of thousands of dollars in damage to the hotel room, with one bill allegedly reaching $40,000. Just absolutely destroy. So that also tells you how aggressive and physical these interactions are if the actual hotel room is being demolished in the process.
Yeah, and I'm sure it was also partly him just smashing shit. Like he's obviously like filled with rage and just likes to destroy things. I think it's a power move for him too, to know that he can destroy these rooms, obviously from the sexual acts themselves, but just in other senses as well.
Well, yeah, 40 grand's nothing to him.
Yeah, and plus he has, which we will get into more later, but staff members that come and just clean it up for him and try to get it to as good condition as possible so that the bill goes down.
Unreal.
People, we all know that there is a lot happening lately. We're getting bombarded by news all day long. It can be overwhelming, and we got to find ways to stay calm. And that's why today's sponsor, Calm, is a great way for you to do that. And I highly recommend it. I use Calm myself. If you didn't know, Calm is actually the #1 app for sleep and meditation, giving you the power to calm your mind and change your life. Everyone faces unique challenges in their daily life, and mental health isn't about a cookie-cutter approach. And that's why Calm offers a wide range of content and programs to help you navigate life's ups and downs, including meditations to help you work through anxiety and stress, boost your focus, build healthier habits, and take better care of your physical well-being.
Some of my favorites, though, are the sleep stories, sleep meditations, and just calming music. I think that's what makes Calm such a great app, is that it's not, not everybody's into meditating or, just it's not their cup of tea, but they've got lots of other ways to find peace and solitude, especially as you wind your day down. I'm a big calming music person.
You are.
That is like my #1 way that I de-stress, even just after leaving this recording. They also have grounding exercises. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, these short guided sessions use sensation, movement, and breath work to help you relax and reset. And what's also cool is that they have expert-led talks on various different subjects, such as handling grief, improving your self-esteem, and care for relationships, and so much more. So there's a lot to enjoy on there. It's not just a meditation app. It truly is a calm app for making your state of mind that much more calm.
And they just make it so easy because they're putting these tools in your pocket, right on your phone. And it can help you dedicate just a few minutes a day to live a happier, healthier life.
Which I also noticed they have Calm for Business.
Yeah.
So we're going to look into getting Calm for Business for everybody at our office, because we care about our employees' mental health and well-being, and we want them all to be calm as well. So stress less, sleep more, and live better with Calm. For listeners of our show, Calm is offering an exclusive offer, 40% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/milehire. Go to calm.com/milehire for 40% off unlimited access to Calm's entire library. That's calm.com/milehire. Not only were these freak-offs constant, but Cassie alleged that Diddy would request them out of nowhere and expect her to organize them and then be ready to perform them immediately.
During a party for Cassie, Diddy allegedly requested a freak-off right then and there. And afterward, while Cassie was still feeling the effects of the drugs that he had forced her to take, she was staying in a hotel room with her friend Brianna, also known as Banna Bongalin, and her then girlfriend. In the middle of the night, Diddy allegedly burst into the room, groped Banna on the balcony before dangling her over the edge of a 17-story drop. And while Cassie was at first too strung out to stop it, she eventually gained composure and got Diddy to stop, saying that Banna's girlfriend was hiding in the closet. Cassie also alleged other instances of violence directed towards additional people and those that she was close to. While she and Diddy were briefly not seeing one another, she started a friendly relationship with rapper Kid Cudi. And when Diddy discovered these texts, he threatened Kid Cudi and allegedly firebombed his car while it was parked in his driveway. So Cassie and Diddy remained romantically involved until 2018. After a dinner in which Cassie thought the two brought their relationship to a close, Diddy raped her. Cassie had previously wanted to end the relationship, but Diddy controlled her car, her apartment, her medical records, her career, her entire life, and she felt trapped in the relationship. But this event caused her to break things off for good, finally. However, Cassie's life moved on. In 2019, she did get married to a professional bull rider named Alex Fine, and eventually had 2 children with him as well. And it wasn't until that clip that we just watched of Diddy at the 2022 BET speech that he mentioned her and disgustingly implied that she had held him down during the years of his violent assaults and forced sexual encounters, spurred her to file the lawsuit.
What's important to point out, though, is that out of the dozens of lawsuits against Diddy, Cassie's is the only one that Diddy settled. After Cassie filed her lawsuit on November 16th, 2023, Diddy settled the next day. While the settlement amount is unknown, it is reportedly near $50 million. While other lawsuits were filed against Diddy in the months after Cassie, including Joy Dickerson-Neal, who accused Diddy and Bad Boy president Harve Pierre of raping her on a private plane in the 90s when she was a minor, things remained relatively quiet for Diddy. That was until March 25th, 2024, when boom, 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 guess who's knocking at the door? Specialized team of Homeland Security that focused on sex trafficking raided Diddy's Los Angeles and Miami homes. Following Cassie and Lil Rod's lawsuit, law enforcement searched for evidence of sex trafficking, sexual abuse of minors, illegal firearms, and drugs. Diddy's sons were detained at the scene, but were eventually released. And at the same time, Diddy's alleged drug mule, Brendan Paul, was arrested while attempting to board a private plane in Miami and charged with felony cocaine possession, though those charges were dropped in December 2024 following Diddy's arrest, which is very interesting, right? Maybe they're doing a deal with him or something. Mm-hmm. Maybe he'll be a witness in Diddy's trial.
While Diddy himself was not charged at this time, law enforcement retrieved electronic equipment like computers and hard drives from his homes, in addition to firearms and other then unknown materials. Lil Rod has alleged in his lawsuit that Diddy had put a secret recording device or several secret recording devices in every room of all of his homes. And it was speculated that law enforcement was looking for the footage that could depict minors engaged in sexual and illegal activity at his parties. Then on May 19th, 2024, CNN released that leaked hotel footage from 2016 that depicted Diddy's hotel assault against Cassie, just as she had alleged. Now, it's unknown how CNN actually obtained this footage at this point, but Diddy released this video in response, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen, but it's just absolutely pathetic attempt at an apology.
It looks like such a fucking...
But notice, as you're watching this, he never directly apologizes to Cassie, and yeah, he's just a total fucking piece of shit.
No, it's just a PR stunt, dude. It's just like, to all the people out there.
Yeah.
All my fans, I let you down. I let myself down.
Especially now that he's trying to be like, oh, it's all pure fiction. Okay.
Yeah. It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life, but sometimes you got to do that. I was f***ed up. I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I made no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy, go into rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
Can't even say her name, though?
No, he cannot.
No. He also, like, him saying, like, I give no excuses for it, but then the first part is, like, I hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
Like, bro, that
I had to go to therapy.
Right.
I was fucked up.
Like, duh, you were fucked up, and you're still fucked up off the 2C.
Yeah, what exactly? And what do you think these things that you're saying are? They're excuses.
Right.
Come on, he just sucks. And then not to mention the fact that he is now trying to say that CNN has altered this footage and it's like fake in some capacity, which I think we will talk more about later on. But
well, and he words this in a way that makes it sound like this is an isolated incident.
Yeah, just when there's one bad moment I had.
Right. There's clearly countless other examples of him being violent and abusive.
Mm-hmm. But a lot of those hadn't been, out in the public eye yet at this point.
Right.
Thought he could still clean it up. So Cassie herself never responded to Diddy's apology video, but her lawyer, Meredith Feiertag, released this statement saying, quote, when Cassie and multiple other women came forward, he denied everything and suggested that his victims were looking for a payday, referencing Diddy's statements from before the raid in which he said, quote, sickening allegations have been made against me by individuals looking for a quick payday. Meredith continued saying, quote, that he was compelled to apologize once his repeated denials were proven false, and shows his pathetic desperation, and no one will be swayed by his disingenuous words.
I think most of us would agree with that.
Yeah. Is anyone on his side? Kanye, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say. And
I'm sure there's others.
That speaks a lot, I would say.
Cassie's husband, Alex Fine, said this in response to Diddy's apology video, quote, "Men who hit women aren't men. Amen. Hold the women in your life with the utmost regard. To all the survivors, your stories are real and people believe you." And luckily, Alex isn't the only one who believes Diddy's victims. On September 16, 2024, Diddy entered the Park Hyatt Hotel and was approached by two men, and those two men immediately handcuffed Diddy and led him to a car parked outside. The next day, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York unsealed a 3-count criminal indictment for Diddy, accusing him of running a racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. If convicted on all 3 counts, Diddy could face life in prison.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Damian Williams, and I'm the U.S. Attorney here in the Southern District of New York. Today, I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice.
So now we're going to review the entire indictment, explaining what's in it, what's not, possible next steps, and a few of the 62 civil suits that Diddy has faced since his arrest. And we've compressed a lot of this information. We're not going to be reading anything, all this word for word. Otherwise, we'd be here for the rest of the year. But before we get into it, it's important to note that Diddy has not been convicted of any crime. So we have to say alleged a lot, despite the amount of evidence that points to his guilt.
So it's important to note that the criminal indictment, which has received 2 superseding indictments since Diddy's initial arrest, is actually relatively short. It's only 14 pages long, and certain memos, including one detailing Diddy's alleged criminal enterprise, are sealed from public view at this point. Compared to Cassie's lawsuit, it's less than half its length. And why is that? Likely to protect the identities and stories of witnesses involved. Since the raids of Diddy's homes in LA and Miami, a grand jury has heard testimonies from potential witnesses and individuals to decide what has made it into the indictment. Most of this information, including their identities, has been kept away from the public, and the grand jury hearings are private, meaning even the people who have testified cannot be confirmed. Then there's also the time frame. While the initial indictment stated that they would be looking at alleged events between 2008 and 2024, a superseding indictment following grand jury testimony has increased the time frame to 2004. So that means that the court will likely not hear about the events surrounding Diddy's alleged sex crimes from the 90s, as well as the 1999 nightclub shooting that resulted in Diddy's artist Shine spending a decade in jail, which we talked about that in our last episode, and also potential links to the still unsolved murders of Biggie Smalls and Tupac Shakur, though we'll discuss updates there in a moment. You'll also notice that between the 3 counts included in Diddy's trial, none involve the sexual exploitation of minors, as alleged by numerous lawsuits. And we'll get into why this may be in a moment, but first we're going to walk through the indictment as it currently stands.
The first count alleges Diddy ran a racketeering conspiracy through his various businesses. And according to the indictment, Diddy, quote, abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he had controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Diddy's RICO case is unique, but not unprecedented. RICO charges were created in the 70s to have court cases revolve around an enterprise involved in criminal activity, not just an individual. Initially, RICO charges were used to bring down the mafia. who used their various businesses and enterprises to carry out extortion, drug trafficking, sex trafficking, and murder, just to name a few. A RICO case can be used to charge an enterprise for protecting and allowing any kind of criminal activity, not just activities that support the enterprise financially. In Diddy's case, prosecutors are alleging that Diddy used his businesses, including Bad Boy Entertainment, to facilitate and protect his sexual abuse in addition to sex trafficking. But what's unique in Diddy's case, however, is that they are only charging Diddy. In typical RICO cases, multiple individuals essential to the criminal enterprise are charged simultaneously.
Now, this indictment does name employees as being used to facilitate his crimes, and Lil Rod's lawsuit stated that Diddy's chief of staff, Christina Coram, was immediately involved with the alleged crimes. But still, as of this recording, Diddy is the only person on trial for this RICO case. And again, it's important to note that Diddy's alleged drug mule was arrested for the possession of cocaine after the home raids in Miami. He was released in December, though it's unclear why his charges were dropped. We're not totally sure on that. But rumor has it that he could have struck a deal to testify in Diddy's case, which I think is probably the most likely scenario.
I would think so, because he was caught with a lot of cocaine.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to just have all those charges dropped unless you get turned state's witness.
Yeah, but I think that's probably what happened. So the lawsuit further details Diddy's alleged abuse, stating, quote, "This abuse was at times verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual. As part of his pattern of abuse, Combs manipulated women to participate in orchestrated performances of sexual activity with Combs, and at times with Combs and commercial sex workers." And that Diddy, quote, "made arrangements for women, commercial sex workers, to fly to Combs' location," which is referencing Diddy's third count, which is violating the Mann Act. And remember this, it will likely become essential to Diddy's defense case. The indictment continues, quote, "Combs ensures participation from the women by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation and violence." And it specifies the time frame of these crimes to, quote, "at least in or about 2009 and continuing for years. Combs assaulted women by, among other things, striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at, and kicking them." The lawsuit also directly references the 2016 hotel leaked footage to CNN the summer before his arrest. And this is important to note, as in addition to the time frame listed, it seems that at least part of the prosecution's case against Diddy will use Cassie's lawsuit as really a blueprint.
The indictment then lists the enterprise's function and various members, stating, quote, "Diddy was the leader of this enterprise. Individuals associated with this enterprise included certain Combs security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors, as well as other close associates of Combs." Which again begs the question, if the indictment states that others were involved in the racketeering conspiracy, why is Diddy the only one on trial? Well, the likely answer to this is because the state wants to put Diddy behind bars first and not divert attention to other associates, which I think is a very good move on their part. Because I think at the end of the day, we all want to see Diddy behind bars for these heinous crimes. We said Diddy's case was unique, but not unprecedented. When we look at the Jeffrey Epstein case, we see many parallels to Diddy's case, including counts of sex trafficking and Mann Act violations or traveling across state lines to engage in prostitution, which we discuss this charge further in a bit because Diddy's defense has focused on it. If we also remember, Ghislaine Maxwell wasn't charged until July 2020 after Epstein had killed himself while in jail, despite her being named in the indictment. If other members of the Combs enterprise aren't named by the trial start, we can expect that others will be charged after its completion. It also states that the members of the enterprise worked at, quote, "fulfilling the personal desires of Combs, particularly related to Combs' sexual gratification, including through the exploitation of women and the use of commercial sex workers, and that they enabled Combs' unlawful acts such as sexual violence, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, coercion and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics distribution, and other crimes." And even alleged that members secured loyalty and showed their loyalty to Diddy through acts of violence. So it seems very, very likely more indictments will follow.
That's definitely how I kind of feel about it. Is I think they just want him in jail immediately. That's why I think they're not pushing the trial date. I think that's why they're not focusing on any extant, other allegations. They're just focusing on these three because they believe these are the three that will get put away, basically.
Yeah, and I think most people would support that.
There's so many good shows going on right now across all of the different streaming platforms, but a lot of us don't want to pay for all the different streaming services, and it can be very difficult to remember which ones you signed up for and which trials have elapsed and what subscriptions you're paying for still. But Rocket Money really makes it super easy to keep track of everything, and they'll even help you cancel some of those unwanted subscriptions. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. We love Rocket Money. I'm on Rocket Money every single day, and that's not a lie. I literally have it on my phone. I'm on the toilet in the morning, and I'm popping into Rocket Money because it just helps me stay, as you get older and, an adult, you have so many accounts. You can connect all those accounts into your Rocket Money account, monitor all of your expenses, monitor when bills are coming out. It really makes it seamless and easy and visual, which a lot of us are that way. And nobody wants to sift through bank statements on a month-to-month basis. Rocket Money just puts it all in one place. But then what's cool is that you can get a utilities bill and upload it to Rocket Money, and they'll actually go out and try to negotiate a lower rate for you.
Yeah, that's really cool. I feel like that's a feature that many people don't realize Rocket Money offers.
No. Not only that, you can create personalized budgets, which is super important. It'll alert you if bills increase in price, which is really helpful because maybe you're getting ripped off and you need to go see what's going on. Rocket Money lets you know.
But the best part is they deal with the customer service for you. So if you're an anxious person like me and you hate dealing with customer service, you'd rather just ignore it, just pretend it's not even an issue.
I'd rather pay for it than deal with customer service.
Yeah, sometimes
no hate to customer service, but 2 taps and then they just take care of it. But sometimes there's a little bit of info about your account you got to put in. But once you submit that to them, they take care of the rest. And then they notify you. They'll send you an email and be like, hey, we've gone ahead and canceled this subscription for you.
Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/milehigher today. That's rocketmoney.com/milehigher. Once again, rocketmoney.com/milehigher. So this is one allegation that we don't actually have much information on. While there is a lot of violence alleged throughout the various civil suits against Diddy, almost all of them were allegedly perpetrated by him, with his staff and associates simply allowing for the crime. So it will be interesting to know what acts of violence this indictment is referring to. The lawsuit also alleges that associates avoided prosecution by law enforcement through, quote, acts of intimidation, manipulation, bribery, and threats of retaliation against individuals who witnessed crimes committed by members and associates of the enterprise. This, of course, could be referencing many different instances. Cassie's alleged multiple instances of Diddy bribing hotel staff and others not to speak on the violence that they witnessed. And Lil Rod even alleged that Diddy paid off law enforcement in California after he shot a musician during a studio session for Diddy's album Love Off the Grid. Or Love Off the Grid, who cares? When describing the methods and means of the enterprise, the indictment states that Diddy used his prestige and position to, quote, intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs' orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship, which was the case, of course, with Cassie when they first got romantically involved in 2007. The indictment is also where the term freak-off first was used by official government prosecutors to refer to Diddy's sexual abuse. This indictment states, quote, freak-offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. They occurred regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days, and involved multiple commercial sex workers. Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to the victims. Combs kept videos that he filmed of the victims engaging in sex acts with commercial sex workers. After freak-offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and the drug use. And this is basically word for word, of course, how Cassie defined a freak-off in her lawsuit.
The indictment also states that associates of the enterprise facilitated the freak-offs by booking hotel rooms, stocking the rooms with materials such as controlled substances, lubricant, extra linens, lighting for Diddy to record the sex act, cleaning supplies, arranging travel for commercial sex workers and victims, and now, famously, baby oil. According to the lawsuit, quote, during March 2024 searches of Combs' residences in Miami and LA, law enforcement seized various freak-off supplies, including narcotics, and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. The lawsuit also makes it clear that Diddy transported commercial sex workers across state lines and international borders, which again had long been alleged since Lil Rod and Cassie's lawsuits. It further alleges that the controlled substances were used, quote, to keep the victim obedient and compliant. The indictment says that Diddy would further keep the victims wrapped under his thumb by, quote, tracking their whereabouts, dictating the victim's appearance, monitoring their medical records, controlling their housing, and of course supplying them controlled substances, which obviously with the whole point of getting them addicted to them. It further goes to say things that were alleged in Cassie's lawsuit. Quote, Combs, among other things, hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims at times by their hair. These assaults often resulted in injuries that took days or weeks to heal. Following the assaults, Combs, with assistance, frequently worked to conceal his misconduct by offering to provide medical assistance or other financial benefits to the victims, which again, Cassie alleged in her lawsuit.
The indictment also alleges that Diddy would use the recordings of the freak-offs as collateral and blackmail, which is not surprising at all. And this is echoed again in Cassie's lawsuit, in which she alleges that Diddy showed her a video that she believed he had deleted. The footage depicted Cassie having sex with a sex worker, and Diddy used the recording to intimidate her to stay with him. And then it was also rumored in the March of 2024 raids that law enforcement discovered firearms on the scene. This was further confirmed with this indictment stating, quote, during the searches of his residences, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 AR-15s with defaced serial numbers, as well as a drum magazine.
Which, like, I don't know, I brought this up to you guys. It's insane to me that one of the AR-15s has, like, a skull and crossbones embossed on the gun itself.
God, it's so fucking scary.
Reminds me of like cartel weapons.
Right.
A little bit.
It's definitely, I don't know, like a status symbol. Like, look how fucking sick my gun is and how scary it is. Especially with a drum magazine. I mean, that's just clearly illegal.
I actually don't know what a drum magazine is.
It just allows for way more ammunition.
59 rounds
so it's
as
like a
opposed
bigger
to
magazine?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
God. So the indictment also further details the acts of violence and coercion previously alleged. It states, quote, these acts of violence included arson and multiple acts of kidnapping, including one instance of kidnapping during which Combs carried and displayed a firearm. On one occasion, Combs dangled a victim over an apartment balcony, which is likely, referencing Cassie's friend, Bana Bongalin. It also alleges that after Diddy's crimes were made known to the public, that he paid off associates to intimidate and threaten accusers, which is definitely not shocking. And while it's unclear what the indictment is referring to, we do know of at least one occasion in which witness intimidation was used against an accuser by an associate of Diddy, but we're going to get to that later on in the episode.
But it's safe to say that the instance of arson is referring to when associates of Diddy allegedly cut open the roof of Kid Cudi's convertible and firebombed it with a Molotov cocktail. Aside from potentially Kid Cudi and Bana Bongalin, 3 additional witnesses are mentioned in the lawsuit. And while none of these people are mentioned by name to protect their safety, we can assume that, quote, witness 1 is probably Cassie, as the instances she witnessed mirror her lawsuit. However, the other 2 witnesses don't have any individual events mentioned with them, meaning we have no clue when or how Diddy victimized them. In further describing the racketeering conspiracy, the indictment includes multiple offenses involving the possession with intent to distribute narcotics and controlled substances such as cocaine, oxycodone, Xanax, MDMA, 2CB, GHB, ketamine, DMT, and methamphetamine. In addition, it is alleged that conspirators would have to commit at least 2 acts of racketeering, including drug and sex trafficking during the regular conduct of the Combs enterprise. This again references co-conspirators in Diddy's case, though he is still the only one charged. And again, while the superseding indictments have not added any new charges, they have expanded the time frame of the alleged crimes and added a new allegation of forced labor regarding a male victim. Quote, with respect to one employee, Combs used physical force, psychological harm, financial harm, and reputational harm and or threats of the same to cause the employee to engage in sex acts. While again this male victim is unnamed, it is likely Phillip Pines, an ex-assistant of Diddy's, who sued him following his arrest. We'll discuss Phillip's lawsuit shortly, but he is also likely testified at the grand jury.
So Diddy's trial starts in earnest on May 5th, coming up very soon. after jury selection and will likely last until after the July 4th holiday. According to insiders, neither the defense nor the prosecution is actually fully prepared and ready for the case to begin, but they hope that this is going to work in their advantage, which I don't totally understand. Do you?
They're, according to these insiders, which again...
Yeah, it's insiders.
It's, grain of salt.
Right.
But they're both saying that either side is like, look, we're not prepared, but let's hope that they are just less prepared than we are.
Okay,
and so
I
that's
see.
why they're both kind of like more or less forcing, like Diddy didn't waive his right to a speedy trial.
Mhm.
He wants a speedy trial.
Yeah.
So they just kind of, the prosecution, obviously, they want to get this over with.
Yeah.
And the defense wants them to just jump the gun, hopefully, and not build like an airtight case.
Well, I mean, that probably shows how confident they are. So, what about Diddy? He had 6 lawyers working his case, filing numerous motions to dismiss charges, of course, change venues, and issue bail. And all of these have been denied as he awaits trial in Brooklyn's MDC, or Metropolitan Detention Center, which is the same jail that's actually currently housing crypto fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried and also alleged healthcare CEO assassin Luigi Mangione. Diddy's team has filed 3 motions to apply for a $50 million bail, allowing him to leave the MDC and await trial from his residence in New York City. And all 3 motions for bail have been denied by judges who have overseen the case, Judge Andrew Carter and Judge Arun Subramanian, who was appointed a few weeks after Diddy's arrest, and no explanation was given for the switch in judges, so we're not sure what happened there. But the state's reasoning for holding Diddy in detention until trial was explained in their detention memo, stating, quote, "If released, he remains a serious risk of flight despite the conditions offered by his counsel. Most glaringly, the defendant also poses a significant risk of obstructing justice. During the course of the charged conduct, the defendant has attempted to bribe security staff, shocking, and threatened and interfered with witnesses to his criminal conduct. He has already tried to obstruct the government's investigation of this case, repeatedly contacting victims and witnesses and feeding them a false narrative."
Which, if this is all just fiction, why do that? Although the identity of the witnesses and victims set to testify during Diddy's trial have remained anonymous for fears of personal safety, the state alleges that Diddy has attempted to contact numerous potential witnesses for intimidation purposes. Cassie is likely not one of them, as one of their settlement rules is that they can no longer personally contact one another. The state has also alleged that Diddy is using his family, namely his children, to sway public opinion through social media posts in the weeks leading up to the jury selection. It's also important to note here that his son, Christian Combs, is the target of a lawsuit alleging he sexually assaulted a woman while on board Diddy's yacht during a recording session for his Love Off the Grid album.
Apple doesn't fall far from the tree, does it?
Nope. And this, which is the same yacht studio session where Lil Rod alleged that actor Cuba Gooding Jr. sexually assaulted him. The detention memo goes on to say that in the early morning of December 22nd, 2011, Diddy and a co-conspirator kidnapped an individual at gunpoint to facilitate the breaking and entering of individual one's house. Again, individual one is likely Kid Cudi, as the detention memo goes on to say that Diddy's co-conspirator set fire to his car using a Molotov cocktail. The memo continues to state that after Cassie and others' lawsuits were filed in 2023, Diddy and others made, quote, repeated phone calls to victims and witnesses during which they provided victims and witnesses with false narratives of events in an apparent effort to conceal the defendant's crimes. On at least 2 occasions, the defendant recorded those calls on a co-conspirator's cell phone.
So hey, that's some good news. Diddy is not getting out on bail. But what other motions have the defense tried to send through to the judge? For one, Diddy's team has tried to get his 3rd count, violating the Mann Act, thrown out. They argue that the law had, quote, racist origins used to target Black men. High-profile white men, including former New York Governor Eliot Spitzer, have engaged in similar conduct but were never charged under the act. Of course, former New York Governor Eliot Spitzer was embroiled in a 2007 scandal in which it was learned that he patronized a sex trafficking ring run by the Emperor's Club VIP. While others who have used the service were charged under the Mann Act, Spitzer wasn't and merely resigned from office. So Diddy's team is somewhat right about one thing. The Mann Act definitely does have racist origins. The Mann Act, passed in 1910, was initially called the White Slavery Act and formally criminalized the transportation of sex workers across state lines. However, the law was used early on to discourage interracial relationships, including the heavyweight champion of the world, Jack Johnson, who was convicted of violating the Mann Act in 1913. The Mann Act would have the nickname, quote, the Blackmail Act, as many others were convicted while carrying out affairs especially when it involved interracial relationships.
However, since the 2000s, most high-profile Mann Act violations have convicted megachurch pastors and other religious leaders convicted of sexual wrongdoing and pedophilia, including Tony Alamo, Brian David Mitchell, and Jack Schaap, all white men. The last high-profile black man convicted under a Mann Act violation was R. Kelly, and the most recent high-profile conviction in general was for Ghislaine Maxwell. So Diddy's Mann Act charge is certainly not unprecedented. In the government's response to Diddy's motion to dismiss the charge, they said, quote, "Race played no role whatsoever in the decision to seek the charges contained in the indictment, which instead stemmed from the defendant's decades of criminal conduct. Because the defendant offers nothing more than conjecture to suggest otherwise, the motion to dismiss should be denied." On top of that, the state has argued that the motion to dismiss is illogical, as the only claim the Mann Act violation was racially motivated, not the other two charges, which directly correlate to the third charge. And what's more, after this filing, Diddy's defense team lost one of its most prominent members because on February 20th, lawyer Anthony Rico filed a notice for his dismissal from the case, writing, quote, "Under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel, but offer no other reasons for his departure." Anthony had represented Diddy since his arrest, and his dismissal left the internet coming up with insane conspiracy theories per usual. So let's get this out of the way. Anthony Rico did not leave the case because Diddy was charged with necromancy. And Diddy is also not accused of necromancy. He is also not charged with necrophilia, which other TikTokers out there suggested. And to our knowledge, sorcery is not illegal in the United States, and many people obviously believe it's not even real.
What's more interesting is that Anthony filed a public notice of his dismissal. Typically, attorneys only do this if they are the sole representation for their client, and the public notice to let other lawyers know, hey, this guy needs new representation. However, Diddy has 5 other lawyers on his team, and Anthony could have just stopped showing up and not made it public. Through Anthony's filing, it's clear he wanted people to know that he was dropping the case. And what's crazy is that Anthony Rico previously represented Osama bin Laden during the 1998 World Trade Center bombing. So, what about Diddy's case makes it harder to work with than bin Laden? Well, according to one potential grand jury witness and also a friend of Kim Porter, who is Diddy's late girlfriend, whom he shares multiple children with, 4 children, there is footage of the freak-offs involving celebrities, some of them who were minors, which Kim Porter is a whole nother discussion. I think we talked about it quite a bit last time.
We did, yeah. We talked about how there are allegations and rumors that Diddy had her poisoned, which led to her very sudden bout of pneumonia that killed her.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think so.
Spring is in the air, and you know what's not in the air at my house? Litter box stink. That's because of Pretty Litter. It obliterates odors so we can enjoy all the wonderful scents of spring. Pretty Litter's non-clumping formula traps odor and moisture, and it's ultra-absorbent, it's lightweight, low dust, and one 6-pound bag works for up to a month. There's so many reasons why Pretty Litter has changed the game for my household. I mean, with 3 cats, just the amount of clay litter I would go through was absolutely insane. It's heavy, it's bulky, and it does not trap the odors the way that Pretty Litter does. But more importantly, as my cats have entered the geriatric phase of life, Pretty Litter provides me peace of mind because its litter is designed so that it changes color to indicate early signs of potential illnesses in my cat, like urinary tract infections, kidney issues, and more. And they just all saw the vet recently, and my vet said the first thing that most geriatric cats have issues with is their kidneys. And so it's great to know that with Pretty Litter, I'll be able to catch early onset problems based on just looking at the Pretty Litter after they've used it, because it basically changes different colors to detect different signs of alkalinity, acidity, and even blood. So it'll change red, yellow, or blue depending on that. And then you can see what a typical urine would be is kind of this greenish color. So it's a visual way to keep track of your cat's health, which is great. Not only that, Pretty Litter ships right to my door and I don't have to go out and get it. It just shows up when I run out, and it just makes life so much simpler. Pretty Litter helps keep my house smelling fresh and clean. Try and you'll love it. Go to prettylitter.com/milehard to save 20% on your first order and get a free cat toy. That's prettylitter.com/milehard to save 20% on your first order and get a free cat toy. That's prettylitter.com/milehard. Terms and conditions apply. See site for details.
Anyway, though, Courtney Burgess is a talent agent who personally knew Kim Porter. and allegedly spoke to her on the phone in the days leading up to her sudden death due to pneumonia. After her death, Courtney said that he received 11 flash drives from a mutual friend that supposedly belonged to Kim. On the flash drives were at least 8 sex tapes involving 8 different high-profile celebrities engaged in freak-offs at Diddy's residences. Of those 8 celebrities, 6 were men and 2 were women, and 2 to 3 were minors at the time of the recording. Just mind-blowing, and I'm very curious about who is on these tapes. Again, there's no way to verify the accuracy of Courtney's claims because the grand jury closed its testimony. We can't even be sure that Courtney even testified, only that he was at the courthouse at the time of the grand jury.
After his testimony, News Nation interviewed Courtney. He also revealed that the flash drives contain Kim Porter's unfinished memoir, which Diddy's children claim is completely fake. As a result, Diddy sued both Courtney and News Nation for $50 million in a defamation suit. This and all the other civil suits will have to wait until after Diddy's criminal trial. And on March 13th, Diddy's team filed a motion to throw the 2016 elevator footage out of the trial because, of course, they want to do that. In a previous motion, Diddy's team claimed that DHS illegally leaked the footage to CNN. Though this is untrue, the newest motion alleges that CNN doctored the footage, though there's no evidence to suggest that this is true, which is, they know it's damning footage. And of course, they're trying everything they can to get this thrown out.
What do they even mean by doctored the footage? How so? Like, what are they saying? It's AI? It's not even him? Or that it's, how would you have even doctored it? And why would CNN do that?
That's the thing, is that there's no specifics in their motion about like how the means of which they actually doctored it.
They're just throwing
Makes no
shit at
sense.
the wall, hoping it sticks. They're hoping a judge is like, oh, maybe that is true. Let's throw it out. No, it's clearly not doctored. It's clearly Diddy. You would watch it and be like, oh yeah, that looks, most doctored footage you can usually tell is doctored.
Mm-hmm.
And that looks like legitimate, just, security camera footage.
I don't believe that for a second. There's no fucking way.
Since the initial lawsuits in 2023, Diddy has been accused of dozens, if not hundreds of crimes. So now that we've discussed what's in the criminal indictment, we should discuss what's been left out. Notably, there are no mentions of sexual abuse against minors despite dozens of allegations surfacing. This is possibly because the prosecution plans to play footage of the freak-offs obtained through the DHS raids of Diddy's homes in LA and Miami. The identification of minors, especially celebrity minors, will be based on visually identifying them through the footage. It's been alleged that the footage was taken through hidden cameras, so it's unclear what the quality of that footage will be. The prosecution wants Diddy to be convicted on every count they put forward, so there's no room for doubt in the jury. Again, if Diddy is convicted on all 3 counts, he faces life in prison. So the prosecution is likely hedging their bets and not including any charges of pedophilia. I think they're being smart here and just they really feel they have solid evidence to go after the 3 charges, and it already carries the, max penalty. So why jeopardize potentially the other charges by putting in another charge that you're not for sure on?
And there's the issue of the statute of limitations. New York previously waived the statute for civil suits, allowing Cassie's lawsuit and dozens of others to get filed in civil court. However, criminal charges stemming from many allegations occurred outside of the statute of limitations. But they may still be used as testimony and evidence concerning the other charges. And what about Diddy's potential connections to the unsolved murders of Biggie Smalls and Tupac Shakur? As we mentioned in the previous Diddy episode, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis is currently being detained in Las Vegas leading up to his February 2026 trial for his role in the 1996 drive-by murder of Tupac Shakur. Keefe D. and others have long alleged that Diddy ordered the hit on Tupac and only exonerated himself by failing to pay the bounty after he was shot. Keefe D's defense has submitted a tape into evidence that allegedly confirms Diddy's involvement, but as of this recording today, neither case is adding murder for hire charges against Diddy. And again, this is likely because the prosecution in Diddy's case doesn't want any possible doubt stemming from past cases or ongoing cases. And this is also why we most likely won't see any evidence that places Diddy behind the trigger at the 1999 New York club shooting that put his rapper Shine in jail for a decade and injured Natanya Rubin, who has maintained that Diddy was the one who fired the pistol.
So what about the defense's case? Aside from the numerous motions for dismissal and bail, we're unsure what their strategy will be. The prosecution likely plans to play footage of the freak-offs obtained from hidden cameras in Diddy's home. This will be done to establish that Diddy's enterprise was in service of his sexual gratification, which was secured by his co-conspirators through illegal means. Therefore, the defense's case will likely rest around consent. They will attempt to establish doubt by saying that everyone pictured in the footage is just there on their own volition, that they're aware that they're being recorded and arrived at the freak-offs under legal means. Again, we don't know what will be said or even what will be shown in court until Diddy's trial begins on May 5th following jury selection. That's going to be very interesting to see how jury selection goes and imagine how difficult that will be.
There were, in some of the videos I was watching with lawyers, they were discussing, like, basically as long as the potential jurors just say, like, I promise to be objective and not, hold any biases, then they're fine. As long as they can say that. And then likely what will happen is both the defense and prosecution will comb their social media to see if they've posted anything either in favor or against Diddy at some point.
Interesting.
But as long as they say, I promise to be impartial,
then they're good to
they're
go.
good.
Wow, that's wild.
I always think about how they go about doing this in the age of social media. And
especially high-profile cases like this.
Yeah, where it's
everywhere.
Most everyone has heard of.
Who doesn't know?
Sean Combs, the man.
Mm-hmm. Or has at least heard about some of the allegations. I don't know.
Or seen a baby oil meme.
Yeah, it's
all over
the place.
It's everywhere when you scroll on any app. So unless you come across somebody who's not on social media these days, which is still a good amount of people.
Yeah.
And maybe they had heard of Diddy back in the day or something like that, and they're not up with what's going on. But yeah, I think scrubbing the social media is probably a good move because then, most people are pretty vocal on their social media. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see though. However, Diddy's legal issues do not end there. Once Diddy's criminal trial ends, regardless of whether he's locked away or set free, the civil lawsuits will be heard. And my God, are there a lot of them. At the time of this recording, there have been 62 lawsuits filed against Diddy alleging sexual battery, sexual abuse, sex trafficking, forced labor, and drug trafficking, among a litany of other crimes. As of now, only one of these cases has been dropped. Many of these cases are being represented by Texas attorney Tony Busby, who claims he will file over 120 lawsuits against Diddy. Diddy and other legal teams have called him a, quote, 1-800 lawyer and have denied all claims made against their clients. It's important to note that as of March 18th, Tony Busby has withdrawn his representation from all the civil lawsuits he has filed against Diddy. A federal judge in New York ruled that Busby isn't allowed to practice law in the Southern District of New York, and he failed to inform U.S. District Judge Rodney Abrams. In a letter to Judge Abrams, Busby said, quote, I made an error in judgment by failing to inform you that I was not admitted to the Southern District. And we'll put a picture of Mr. Busby up there.
Is he wearing blush?
I think he looks kind of, you guys
rosy cheeks, man. Yeah. Maybe he just got rosy cheeks.
Have you seen those pictures? Now they do it to JD Vance, but also like the crazy edited photos of Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen any of those.
Just like the big cheeks and they're really red.
You've seen the JD
Oh,
Vance
yeah,
ones.
I've seen those. Yeah.
But JD Vance is also actually looks to be wearing eyeliner in real life.
He certainly is.
But yeah, I've seen the JD Vance ones. So we're not going to discuss all 62 lawsuits against Diddy in today's episode. Obviously, that would just take forever. However, if you are interested in them, Vulture has a very lengthy write-up on every current and former case that they have continuously updated with each new filing. So that's very interesting, and maybe we can have that linked below for people. But we will discuss a few that pertain to Diddy's current and potential future criminal cases. Again, it is important to note that Cassie's lawsuit is likely serving as a blueprint for the criminal case against him, and any future case will likely follow the same strategy. So let's start with Phillip Pines, who is a former personal assistant to Diddy, who filed his 32-page lawsuit on December 24th, 2024. Nice Christmas Eve drop for him. And it also alleged that Phillip testified of his experiences during the grand jury hearings. Now, also just a side note too, Phillip Pines does a full 50-minute interview in the last episode of The Fall of Diddy, and it is very interesting. We're going to get into some of the things that he brought up, but I definitely recommend watching at least that episode. I think that had the most new information in it.
And I also, that's probably the best resource if you want to know more about his case, because unlike all of the other lawsuits against Diddy, his is not online. And I wonder if that is because of his potential involvement in the criminal indictment. But that interview is really the only comprehensive version of his events.
Yeah. And man, it is disturbing. Disgusting. There's some text messages that he shared in that episode as well, which we are going to go through some of those here in a bit. But his lawsuit alleges that Diddy engaged in sexual battery, sex trafficking, harassment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress throughout the 2 years that he was employed by him from December of 2019 to December of 2021.
Phillip's lawsuit sounds a lot like Cassie's and Lil Rod's, as Phillip was expected to supply hotel rooms with materials for what he called, quote, wild king nights, which included copious amounts of drugs, birth control, and of course, baby oil. In an ID Discovery interview with Phillip, he alleges that there would be so much baby oil on the ground after a wild king night that he would have to be careful not to slip on the floor. He also plays a voice message in this interview from Diddy asking him to buy a Plan B pill.
It's amazing to me that, I guess I should say shocking, that no one slipped and fell and like cracked their head during one of these. And maybe someone did, but it seems so dangerous. They had baby oil all over the bathroom floor. Like people must have been falling.
My guess is that a lot of stuff has been covered up, or Diddy was like, here's a quick
Oh,
check. Let me
right,
write you,
Yeah.
in order for you not to say anything.
That could have
Well,
gone
because again, blood would be found in these rooms.
Urine,
So likely
everything
people
else.
did fall and cut and whatever,
Yep.
and they just cleaned it up and moved on with it.
God, it's so disgusting.
You think they're going to call 911
No.
Right.
Hell no. Of
Exactly.
when there's copious amounts of drugs?
Yeah.
Because in most cases like that, you're going to get the police showing up too.
Yeah.
You know
I
what I
guess
mean?
I'm just shocked that no one died slipping on the oil, especially with how drugged everyone had to have been.
So what I'm curious about too, and I think I know the answer to it, but you would think that these Wild King nights would be wildly loud. And so he's not renting, he's not like buying out the whole hotel. I know he stays in like the suites, the presidential suites on the top floors and penthouses and what have you. So maybe there's enough separation from the rest of the guests there and they have private elevators and stuff. And maybe he was very strategic about where he stayed. But I know in even hotels that we've stayed in that have some sort of like presidential suite or something like that, there's still rooms below it. You know what I mean? Like you would wonder if there was complaints ever made to the hotel about what the fuck's going on upstairs.
I'm sure there were, but I kind of have a feeling if you're paying thousands and thousands a night to stay in the nicest suite, like you can kind of get away with it. And if someone called like, oh my God, there's a noise complaint, the front desk would probably be like, yeah, we'll take care of it. And like maybe they called up and were like, can you be quiet? And like at the end of the day, though, I think a lot of people knew like, don't question Diddy or don't fuck with what they're doing up there.
Yeah.
They're spending so much money anyways. And
Or maybe they're told that if any complaints come in to like direct them to someone like Phillip Pines and he's just got the access to be able to pay them off quickly or do whatever he needs to do, because it sounds like Diddy would not want to be disturbed during these wild king nights, which is interesting. That's a new term that since we last covered this has kind of come to the surface, and it's different than a wild king or than a freak off. Sorry, it's fucking whack. It's hard to keep track of it, but yeah, they are slightly different. You want to explain how?
plus, really quick, I also think like hotels don't want to cause drama and bring attention to themselves in a negative way.
Right.
They don't want bad press.
Police showing up.
Yeah,
at
they don't want the
hotel.
cops
Yeah.
showing up, and then it makes headlines that the whatever Hyatt is, responsible for allowing Diddy to host these fucking crazy events. And I think a lot of it was just kind of swept under the rug because Diddy is who he is, has the power and money that he did, and just got away with a lot of it because of that.
Yeah, I mean, clearly that's what's been happening for decades. I've never stayed in a presidential suite or anything like that, but I'm sure the floors are probably like a nicer,
Yeah, I have no
like
idea.
marble or
Yeah.
some shit, and maybe it's more soundproof.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I just found a legal answer to, I think, a question I brought up earlier about hotels' liability and all this. And I just found a injury attorney's website that said a hotel usually cannot be held liable for crimes committed on or near the hotel unless it should have anticipated the crime. For example, the hotel is in a very high crime area and could have prevented it either by providing sufficient warnings or taking better security measures. So they don't have any, there's they're like, well, we don't know what's going on in there, what Diddy's doing. I mean, it's Diddy. Like, who are we to question this upstanding citizen? You know what I mean?
We want him back. We want him to.
It's great publicity for the hotel to have Diddy staying there. Keep hosting his
parties and keep paying us whatever. It was. I mean, I'm sure some presidential suites are like $30K a night. You know,
God, that's crazy.
So. For them, it's good business.
Yeah. And they're going to be more concerned that the person renting out a room like that is happy versus everyone else.
Rando,
Yeah, it's really more so along the lines of hotel can be held liable, obviously, if the hotel doesn't create a safe environment.
Right.
You know, they're cleaning the floors with baby oil and someone slips on the baby oil type of thing, or wet floors.
Right. So, okay. I want you to explain the difference between Freak Off and Wild King Night. And I thought what was interesting is in Phillip's interview, he said that he had never even heard the term Freak Off until all of this came out. And I wonder why that was.
I think potentially what it could be is that freak offs were more or less reserved for romantic or, again, as Josh will explain, like women partners. And so because Phillip was mainly engaged with the men that Diddy surrounded himself with, it was the Wild King Night. So freak offs just probably never even came up. But in Lil Rod's lawsuit, he still referenced that freak offs were occurring in, around the same time frame.
Okay. I'm still really confused.
So with Wild King Nights, basically female sex workers got trafficked to his location to have sex with him and other associates. Whereas with freak offs, Diddy would traffic male sex workers for these freak offs and then record them as women he knew, whether they were romantic partners of his or not, had sex with them. So it's kind of like an inverse type of thing, whereas seemingly freak offs were more so an event that he clearly participated in and watched and recorded.
He was sort of keeping freak offs more under wraps.
I think
less people knew.
I think less people knew because it was mainly him and romantic partners, and then the sex workers he would bring in for those events.
Huh.
As opposed to the Wild King Nights, I mean, in Phillip Hine's interview, he described like there were always like typically multiple men and then multiple female sex workers. Whereas like in Cassie's lawsuit, when she discusses freak offs, it's typically just her, a sex worker, and Diddy in a room.
And she was the one who facilitated it and was tasked with organizing it and stuff. Right. So maybe he like only wanted his like most inner circle, even closer than his closest associates, to know about the freak offs.
Right.
God, it's so wild.
Whereas like the Wild King Nights are like him and his buddies just go fucking nuts, take a bunch of drugs, and have a bunch of sex with sex workers.
Yeah.
But Phillip alleges that after Wild King Nights, he'd be tasked with cleaning up the hotel rooms.
Oh, so disgusting. It was so upsetting watching his interview speaking about what that was like.
Couldn't even imagine. It sounds absolutely horrific. He said beds, furniture, other parts of the room were absolutely stained with semen, urine, feces even, and blood. Just bodily fluids everywhere, shit destroyed.
So today I want to tell you about a product that I truly love, has really transformed my hair, and that is Nutrafol. And I'm sure you've heard me talk about it before, but it is, I mean it, one of my favorite products that I've ever discovered because it has made such a massive difference for me. And I actually found Nutrafol on my own after I gave birth to my daughter, and I started experiencing major hair thinning and shedding. I didn't know what to do, so I started researching, what I could do. And a lot of the treatments out there sounded painful, time-intensive, really expensive. So that's when I found Nutrafol. And wow, hasn't it made such a huge, huge difference in my hair. I'm still on it to this day, and I plan on being on it as long as I can. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand trusted by over 1.5 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. Now, everyone's root causes of hair thinning are different, so a one-size-fits-all approach to hair growth just doesn't cut it. Nutrafol has multiple formulas that are tailored to give your hair exactly what it needs to grow throughout different stages, such as postpartum, menopause, as well as for different lifestyles such as plant-based diets. And while many supplements rely solely on ingredient studies, Nutrafol clinically tests final formulations to ensure their efficacy. In a clinical study, 86% of women reported improved hair growth after taking Nutrafol Women Hair Growth Supplement for 6 months.
Yeah, I was just asking you about this yesterday, I think. about Nutrafol. I forget how it came up in conversation, but you were saying.
Oh yes, right. We were talking about it.
I think I said some more came in or something like that. And you were like, yeah, it's been really great because you get some new hairs coming in, right?
Yeah, you've noticed it. I mean, haven't you just noticed such a massive difference in my hair from when I, first gave birth to now?
It's beautiful. It's luscious.
Thank you. I'm very happy with
Love it. And you get a lot of comments about it too.
I do. So start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter promo code MileHigher. Find out why over 7,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code MileHigher. Once again, Nutrafol.com, promo code MileHigher.
Phillip also alleges that Diddy had COVID during his 50th birthday party and he didn't tell anyone and ended up giving it to another celebrity who never learned where he contracted the virus. Phillip also said that Diddy's chief of staff, Christina Quorum, was intimately aware of Diddy's behavior and went to great lengths to make sure he had the correct illegal substances, lubricants, and sex workers at his disposal for Wild King nights. Regarding his violent outburst, Christina texted Phillip, quote, "You know how he gets." And so we grabbed some other of these alleged texts sent from Christina Quorum to Phillip Pines just so we could show you.
Yeah, let's go through these.
So yeah, I'll just bring up this first one because it's just Christina texting. But it's interesting how some of them are so benign, like just P-Diddy needs his flossing toothpick,
Yeah.
And then it goes on to be much more extreme shit.
So this one is between Christina and Phillip. I'll just read as Christina. So she says, lorazepam, give him 3. Zolpidem. Is that what it's called?
I think.
Give him 2. What is that? Zolpidem.
Let's find out.
Zolpidem.
Lorazepam is kind of like a Xanax type.
Zolpidem is also it's a sedative and it can treat insomnia.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. So it's like Ambien.
Right.
Okay. Cialis.
Yep.
Don't need to explain that, I'm sure. Clonazepam. Give him 5. Dang, all that together?
That's a lot of benzos to take at once.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's known. If you are taking benzos on the reg, you develop a higher tolerance.
Right.
So you can just take more. But that's because I'm sure alcohol was involved and all kinds of other shit. So that's quite the drug cocktail.
Phillip says only saw clonazepam and Cialis in the bag, gave him them amount above.
Wouldn't those two, I don't know anything, but wouldn't those two kind of counteract each other?
What?
Like Cialis and clonazepam?
I think Cialis just works
no matter
what. Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Then she also tells him to bring 2 Whispering Angel Rose, or is that Rosé?
It's Rosé, yeah.
1 Astroglide, 2 baby oil. Can you bring to Blank's house? Hey, PD needs a drop-off of the following, please. 4 of those young coconuts. That really disturbed me. What the fuck is he using those
Especially
for?
when it's followed up by.
I know, yeah. The next things he needs, 7 bottles of baby oil, 7 bottles of Astroglide, his Apple TV. Oh, God, that's so disturbing.
And like we were saying beforehand, all of his all of his electronic devices were filled with fucking porn.
Yeah.
To the point where it was difficult to if they were handing an iPad to an executive to show them a deck,
yeah,
there was the potential that they'd accidentally scroll and see sex, they'd see straight up porn.
Yep. And it was Phillip's job to clean up all the devices after these Wild King nights to make sure that no one else saw everything.
Which is what I'm imagining is on what the Apple TV part of this.
Yeah,
text
I'm
is
assuming
referring
that
to.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. God, part of me wants to just believe that they just wanted to have some fresh coconut water. I don't think that's the case. Okay, then she says, you might have to ride with them to the adult shops. Security can drive. Can you give security the 2 addresses? Because we would have to manually enter. It's a whole new phone. FYI, I think PD doing Wild King night at hotel. PD said he's going to need emergency cleanup at the hotel once they leave and come to the house. Also, he is starving. There is set aside chicken and shrimp, Creole, and rice in the fridge for him. These people did fucking everything for him. Hey, PD is still in hotel, but when you get to Mapleton, he asked if you could bring him stain remover for a chair and couch and black trash bags. And baking soda too, he said. Or Phillip said copy. And hairdryer, LOL.
Can you imagine as an assistant getting these requests? You're like, what the?
Right? So then he says,
Bet cleanup gonna be insane.
She says, I call it ... baby oil party, laughing emoji, Khaled voice.
And then a vat
of
baby oil.
Yeah, what is that even? What do they have, like a pot?
It looks like a pot filled with baby oil, like straight
Why
up.
is it so yellow? Baby oil is clear, isn't it?
I think it's kind of a little yellowish.
I don't remember it when we used to use it for
Or
Molly.
it's just fucking olive oil or something. Oh my God.
Well,
So
baby
sick.
oil is mineral oil, and that's
Clear?
Well, I don't know. I guess it depends.
Maybe it just depends on the brand.
Yeah.
We always had clear. Oh, so gross. See, that's pretty much all the text that
I would
we
assume.
released.
Does baby oil stain stuff?
Oil in general, I think,
Right.
is, right?
Oh, for sure.
So that must be with the baby.
I think you can get it out with like dish soap though. And whenever I get oil stains on my clothes, I just hit it with Dawn Power Wash. So I don't know.
Remember the whole thing with his lawyer was like, oh, all of that's because he buys baby oil in bulk at Costco.
Oh yeah, I
and then Costco was like, we don't sell baby oil
Oh,
in bulk
right.
in United States stores.
God, what the fuck?
Also, by the 1,000 is
Yeah,
like way too
really,
much.
bro?
That much? God,
He's
this
used-
just tells you
that's-
how much he
Holy smokes.
freak.
But Phillip said this all culminated in 2021 when Diddy forced him to have sex with a female sex worker during a Wild King night. While the sex worker consented, Phillip did not. And he said he did participate. And in that moment, he did what he felt like he had to do. You know, obviously, if you have Diddy there
Mm-hmm.
telling you to do something and you're already fearful of him. And
And not just for your job, but like for your life. being
yeah,
around
exactly.
Diddy. And that's what pissed me off in that interview. I can't remember the name of the woman who was interviewing him, but she was like, why didn't you just leave? Or why didn't you just say no? Like something that in an interview now you would never ask a woman. It was so shocking to me that she just asked him that.
I think he had a good answer, though.
Yeah, he did a great interview, I thought.
He's like, nobody knows what you would do in that situation until you're in that situation. And also having the relationship that I had with Diddy at the time.
Yeah.
He's my employer, and you know, I'm basically
Yeah.
I have to do what he wants me to do.
Mhm.
Otherwise,
And he made
you know.
sure the woman was consenting, and it's so traumatic for him as well.
yeah, it clearly was very traumatic for him. I mean, he broke down in that interview, and he
Yeah.
said that as soon as Diddy was out of his sight, he ran out of the room, and he felt really, really dirty about that whole situation. In response to Phillip's lawsuit, Diddy's team issued this statement, which they've released regarding just about every lawsuit. Quote, "No matter how many lawsuits are filed, it won't change the fact that Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted or sex trafficked anyone, man or woman, adult or minor."
It's also alleged that Phillip is going to be called as a witness to the criminal case about the second superseding indictment that claimed Diddy used forced labor as part of his enterprise. However, this is still unconfirmed. But Phillip isn't the only member of Diddy's inner circle who filed a lawsuit against him. On February 28th, 2025, Bad Boy Entertainment co-founder Kirk Burrowes filed a lawsuit alleging Diddy regularly forced Burrowes to witness him having sex with Bad Boy employees, interns, and prospective artists. According to Burrowes' lawsuit, quote, Combs orchestrated these encounters as a means of psychologically breaking down plaintiffs' resistance and establishing his submission. Kirk alleged that Diddy often asked him to come to his office only to walk in on Diddy having sex or engaging in other lewd acts. Kirk also alleged that Diddy demanded he watch him masturbate, sexually harassed him, and told him to, quote, hire more homosexual male interns. Kirk also alleged that in 1996, Diddy stormed into his office and ordered him to sign over his stake in Bad Boy or, quote, face violent repercussions. Kirk had previously tried to sue Diddy over this claim in the early 2000s. Since Diddy's mother, Janice Combs, is also a co-owner of Bad Boy, she is included in that lawsuit as well. Diddy's team responded to Kirk's lawsuit by saying, quote, the latest lawsuit filed by Kirk Burrowes, filed by none other than Tyrone Blackburn, Lil Rod's representation in his lawsuit against Diddy, in another frivolous attempt to relitigate claims that have been repeatedly thrown out in court over the past 30 years.
But Kirk's lawsuit isn't the only one detailing Diddy's alleged misconduct earlier in his career. On September 24th, 2024, Thalia Graves filed her lawsuit against Diddy, alleging that he and his then bodyguard, Joseph Sherman, raped her in the summer of 2001. Thalia was 25 at the time and in the midst of a bitter custody battle between her ex-husband and their two children. She was also dating an unnamed bad boy executive who introduced her to Diddy in late 1999 or early 2001. Her lawsuit states that her boyfriend and Diddy had a, quote, close relationship. Thalia frequently visited her boyfriend at the Bad Boy Studio in New York City and attended parties hosted by Diddy at his house in the Hamptons. In or around the summer of 2001, Thalia allegedly received a call from Diddy concerning her boyfriend's employment at Bad Boy. He told her he wanted to meet to discuss her boyfriend's, quote, performance issues. Diddy and Joseph Sherman, a.k.a. Big Joe, arrived at Thalia's mother's house in Queens. Sherman was driving while Diddy sat in the back seat. Upon entering the vehicle, Diddy offered Thalia a glass of wine, which she accepted. As they started to discuss her boyfriend's performance issues, she began to feel lightheaded, dizzy, and physically weak. It's alleged that Diddy drugged her drink, as she had never felt this way after one glass of wine.
The car pulled up to the Bad Boy Studio in Manhattan, and upon exiting the vehicle, Thalia found it hard to walk. At first, she thought it was her fault and tried to act normal. She was led to a private room with a couch, so disturbing, and a pool table in the Bad Boy Studio, where she later learned was Diddy's personal lounge and office. They sat on the couch until Thalia felt woozy and eventually lost consciousness. And when she woke up, Thalia was naked and her hands were tied behind her back with what felt like a plastic grocery bag. According to Thalia, both Diddy and Joseph Sherman took turns raping her. Sorry, it's hard to even get through this. It's so upsetting. The details of this assault are disgusting, to say the least. And at one point, Thalia even vomited on the pool table. The alleged assault continued until Thalia once again lost consciousness. And when she awoke, she was alone and naked on the couch, and she quickly dressed using clothes from the room and immediately left. She then called a taxi driver that her family knew well, and the driver tried to convince her to go to the hospital and report the alleged rape. Still, she was unable to leave the car because she was, quote, shaking and crying hysterically, and she was terrified, understandably, of what Diddy would do to her or her family if she reported him. Thalia was not only afraid of Diddy, but also worried about how reporting the assault could affect her ongoing custody battle. She tried to confide in her boyfriend, but he discouraged her as it could have, quote, negatively impacted his career. Great boyfriend. Thalia eventually left New York City out of fear and suffered from severe depression and PTSD for the rest of her life after the alleged assault.
Then around November 2023, Thalia's ex-boyfriend revealed to her that the attack had been recorded. Diddy and Sherman allegedly showed the video to friends and published it through an illegal porn business Sherman was running. The boyfriend was also shown the video and was compelled to come forward after Cassie filed her lawsuit. An unnamed bad boy artist corroborated this alleged pattern of recording rapes, saying, quote, Sherman used to sell porn of him doing this to chicks. He did that to a lot of women. In response to Thalia's lawsuit, Sherman countersued her for defamation and stated that he worked for Diddy in 1999 and never met her. Diddy's team has not yet responded to Thalia's lawsuit. Joseph Sherman is not the only co-defendant in the lawsuits against Diddy. The most famous was filed by Tony Busby, who alleged that Diddy and Jay-Z raped an unnamed woman in 2000 at an MTV Music Awards after party when she was just 13 years old. However, this is the only lawsuit against Diddy since his arrest that was dropped with prejudice, meaning it cannot be refiled. This came after the woman's father said he did not recall making the more than 5-hour drive to pick up his daughter after the alleged rape. However, the woman maintains that her story is true even after dropping the lawsuit. She said that Jay-Z intimidated her after he allegedly hired men to knock on her door and got her to say that she made up the whole story. The audio of this interaction was just released to the public on March 13th.
And we're going to insert that audio here if you want to hear it for yourself.
Out of those 8 videos, 8 celebrities, 6 men and 2 women, how many of those 8 celebrities were close to being underage or potentially underage?
2 males.
2 males. And of those 8 celebrities, how many of them were intoxicated or under the influence of drugs?
This is going to be all speculation. I just want to preface it by he wouldn't know if they were. Right.
Sure.
Appear to be.
Let me rephrase
right.
it.
Based on, yes.
Understand. Out of the 8 celebrities who were recorded having intimate relations with Sean Combs, how many of them appeared to be either inebriated or intoxicated or under the influence of drugs?
All of them. All of them.
Out of those 8, how many appear to be potentially victimized? How many might have been victimizing?
I think all, to be honest, all.
Were victims
They
or
victims.
were perpetrating?
Victims.
They were all eight were victimized.
Yeah.
Meaning
Victim.
this was happening to them and they were inebriated.
Right. Not knowing, I guess, how much proof it was in it, what they was doing.
So Jay-Z not only countersued the Jane Doe, but also the attorney, Tony Busby. And this is an interesting move, as typically lawyers are protected from defamation lawsuits. Jay-Z's attorneys will have to prove that Tony knew that the Jane Doe's account was fake and still decided to proceed with the lawsuit anyway. But Jay-Z isn't the only high-profile rapper involved in Diddy's lawsuits. In October of 2024, Kanye West, disgusting, his ex-assistant, Lauren Pashota, amended her lawsuit against her former employer, claiming that he drugged and raped her while at a 2021 studio session co-hosted by Diddy. And I would not be surprised at all if that is true. While Diddy is not named as a defendant in the suit, Lauren claims in her lawsuit that Kanye routinely sexually harassed her, sending her lewd text messages in which he discussed his, quote, racist dick, and often groped her and told business associates that they had hooked up even though they hadn't. According to Lauren, Kanye gave her a laced drink while at a studio session co-hosted by Diddy, and when Lauren woke up the next day, she had no recollection of what happened. As Kanye kept telling others that they had hooked up, Lauren told him to stop, as to her knowledge, they never had. Kanye revealed during that studio session that they had, quote, hooked up a little, whatever the fuck that means. And then when Lauren realized that she didn't remember the alleged rape, she realized that Kanye had drugged her. In response to Lauren saying that she had no recollection of the encounter, Kanye allegedly said, quote, women love to say they don't remember.
Fuck you,
I know,
dude.
Fuck you. I
You
hate
piece
Kanye
of shit.
so much. She's such a terrible human, man. Neither Kanye nor Diddy's legal teams have responded to the lawsuit.
But speaking of old Ye, on March 17th, this jail call between Kanye and Diddy was leaked. In it, Diddy encourages Kanye to get back on stage, man, because everybody loves you, and thanks him for taking care of his kids. Disgusting.
I know now.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for just taking care of my kids, man. Because ain't nobody reach out to them. Ain't nobody call them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nobody, you know what I'm saying? And that meant so much, you know what I'm saying, that you reached out to them and took them under your wing while I'm in this law, man. And I appreciate you. Word up, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I love you so much, man. It's like you raised me even when I didn't know you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. But I love you once again, man. I'm going to let y'all go and get back to some fun, man. I don't want to bring your vibration down.
Never.
Keep it in a high frequency, man. And you keep doing everything you're doing, man. You got that freedom. And when I get out and I get that freedom, whew,
Right.
I am not caring about nothing but motherfucking being happy. And I want you to feel that.
Yeah.
I want y'all to have that for yourselves, man.
Yeah.
I don't always spoke up for everybody, you know. And, you know, I ain't bitter or nothing. I'm just telling you how it is because you're the only one, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, if you're the only one that came to get me, that's all I can do is say, like, damn, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Spoke up, man, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I just felt that energy. It's like something was channeling through me. You know how it be when I like get in that mode and it's like, gotta do it.
Tell you the real from the front line. You know what I'm saying? It's wicked, wicked, wicked. So you be careful.
Yeah.
We can't do nothing if they, you know what I'm saying? I need you out there, you feel me?
Yeah.
These other motherfuckers, they'll waste your time, big.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Wasting
understand.
your motherfucking time, you know what I'm saying? So put that love in your heart, man, and enjoy yourself, man. When I get out there, man, I'm gonna see you tear down the stadiums. I need to see you back on that stage. And actually rapping and performing and everything. I be dreaming of that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like being left for dead, B, and only one person coming to do anything to get you. And that's the level of appreciation that I have for you. But just like taking care of my son, that's some like next level big brother shit, B.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You ain't have to do that. It was taking my son and like, damn, coming a big brother father figure to him means a lot, you know?
Man, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
It's
they out
crazy.
there with no parent and shit, man. These people trying to rock me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is like makes more sense of those that insane, what is it now? X. All the X's, are they called tweets still?
What?
Just
Call
when
them tweets,
Kanye
man.
went on his whole
They're
fucking
tweets.
thing.
Fuck
And
saying
he was
X.
saying, okay, yeah, his tweets, whatever. Where he was like defending Diddy.
Well, and then they released a song together right around
Yep.
the time this jail call dropped.
Yeah.
Which
I never
has-
heard it from, I think was it you that played a little bit
We
of
played
it
a
for
little
me
bit.
this morning?
It's terrible.
Because it's like him in jail.
Yeah,
Diddy's in jail.
It's part of the jail call is the sample on the track. And then I think it's Christian Combs, Diddy's son, the one who's also an alleged sexual assaulter,
What the
who
fuck?
features on it alongside Northwest, which
Yeah.
pissed off Kim because she's like, why are you putting our daughter on a song with Diddy?
Yeah,
That's
what on earth?
that is so upsetting.
Mhm.
It just shows how
Poor
deranged
thing.
he is,
Yeah,
man.
dude. Yeah, to put it lightly.
Whack. Not only that, there have been a number of other Diddy phone calls going around YouTube and online. However, only the Kanye one is verified. Now we're going to show you another Diddy call that claims to show Diddy speaking in code to his son about, quote, getting rid of the pizza boxes and asking Jay, reportedly referring to Jay-Z, something. So take this with a grain of salt. However, as the jail calls are mentioned in the detention memo, it's unlikely the public will hear most of the verified calls until the trial starts.
You recycle the plastic like we talked about.
Yeah.
Did Jay reach out yet?
Nah, Bob. He ghosting.
Yeah, Bob. You heard him? I'm in here.
Jay-Z reach out. You about to get out on bail.
No. Hey, yo, check this out. Need you to reach out to the producer. Let these motherfuckers know there's a release date for that new Netflix movie.
Alright, Pop. It's fucking crazy right now.
You heard him? That's a threat. You know, he's talking about something he got on audio, on the video, right? Yeah. Let him laugh now. We're going to laugh the loudest later.
Very weird. Very weird.
Very weird.
Yeah.
I think what the pizza boxes could be referring to is if this, because again, it's not verified. So if it's not a real call, I think what they are doing with the pizza boxes is kind of alluding to other sex trafficking conspiracy theories like Pizzagate, really, where it was similar in Pizzagate, where it was like the pizza boxes was used as code for the.
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely, that could be the case if it's not for something else,
right?
For sure.
Wow.
Yeah. Again, we'll have to wait till the trial and see what actually.
It's been crazy how much comes out during trial.
Yeah. But there are also new allegations from individuals who haven't filed lawsuits but have made their stories with Diddy known through interviews. Kat Pasion, who dated Diddy from 2018 to 2021, detailed new allegations of intimidation and non-consensual experience she had with Diddy in 2021.
That's also an episode that I highly recommend watching, her story. That's episode 4, I think.
Yeah, in the docuseries The Fall of Diddy, which is on Max. It might be elsewhere as well. But
her interviews,
I believe it's
heartbreaking.
Yeah. I think it's an ID Discovery documentary that is on Max.
Is on Max.
I gotcha. Okay.
So it'd also be on Discovery Plus probably as well. But Kat alleged that Diddy forced himself on her while under the influence of the drug Tusi, a favorite of Diddy's according to Phillip Pines and Lil Rod. While Kat did not go into details about the experience as she didn't want to relive it, she said what had happened was, quote, scary and, quote, definitely wasn't consensual. So you can obviously, understand what happened there. She said that weeks after the assault, she called him a demon while on a phone call, and he allegedly threatened to deport her to her home country of Canada. She also recalled strange interactions she had with him during the early days of their relationship. While on a yacht in 2019, the two of them watched a part of the documentary Surviving R. Kelly, to which Diddy apparently said, quote, there's a little R. Kelly in all of us.
Yeah, she said that was a moment where she was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
who am I with?
Yeah.
Because I think her quote was like, there's not a little R. Kelly in me. Like,
Yeah,
no, there's not.
Yeah, that is just such a bizarre thing to say.
While Kat has not filed a lawsuit against Diddy, she joins the hundreds of others who have made allegations against him before he goes to trial for his criminal case. And I mean, there's like so many allegations being thrown around. And basically, I feel like anybody that has had contact or spent some period of time with Diddy, there's likely some allegation floating around out there.
The Kardashians, I know people throw around a lot, or like Ellen
DeGeneres is
like people think she
definitely
moved to England to like get away from the Diddy stuff, but it's also like they're gonna come get your ass in England.
Yeah, if you're involved, you're gonna get extradited.
Yeah,
even Druski.
Yeah, Druski. I was just introduced to him. You just showed me
Love
his little...
Druski, yeah.
That,
I love his content, I should say. I don't know.
yeah, well,
who he is
now
as
I
a
don't
person,
know.
But
He denies that's a whole nother can of worms, but...
yeah, which, Ian, you looked into that a little bit more and doesn't, I don't know.
Again, this is completely my opinion, so don't take this as fact. But I think the experience that the woman talked about is like too specific to be made up, frankly, because she alleges that the man who she says was Druski like used baby oil on her and then used her as like a slip and slide before raping her. And so that's like just too specific of a case to be made up. So what I think happened was that in 2018, during this event, this alleged event with Diddy, she was drugged up. This happened to her. And then years later, while trying to file this lawsuit, the individual who did that to her was likely someone who just looked a lot like Druski. And she put two and two together because Druski at that time was not that well known. He was just starting his career, but not to the point where he would be famous enough to hang out with Diddy. And then in 2021, Druski did a skit with Diddy where it was like they kind of publicized like Druski's going over to Diddy's house for the first time in 2021, and this alleged rape happened in 2018.
Okay.
So while Druski certainly was at Diddy parties and was with Diddy, that's not necessarily, a full-on indication that he was involved in this specific instance.
I see. Yeah, I don't know, honestly, enough about it or about him to really speak on that, but...
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
I hope that's not the case, that Druski was involved in that capacity. But again, like Ian said, back in 2018, he was not on the map the way that he just like recently in the last probably couple of years started really gaining
he's
fame online.
Big.
Yeah, he's big now. I mean, he's 3 million subs on YouTube and 7 million on Instagram and stuff. Like he's like in the celebrity realm now, and certainly in the past couple of years. But I think in 2018, I think he was just getting started online, and I don't know how he would have linked up with Diddy at that point. But again, I don't know. Who knows?
Right. And I will say to the plaintiff's credit, she's unnamed. She's a Jane Doe, but to her credit, I mean, Diddy does hang out. Like Lil Rod, probably when he was being brought around Diddy, was at a similar level of fame as Druski was in 2018, which is to say, like, both of them having like some notoriety, but not necessarily famous, just kind of just being, well known in certain circles. So to her credit, there's a potential. There's a potential.
Okay. Yeah, who knows?
But at the end of the day, it's important to note that Diddy will have to face all of these civil suits after his criminal trial finishes, regardless of whether he's convicted or not. However, it's unclear if Diddy will have any money left over after it's all said and done. Because at Diddy's height, he was nearing billionaire status. As he stated, he was a billionaire, but Forbes contested this. However, after he lost his various brand partnerships and had to forfeit assets that were part of the criminal investigation, conservative estimates place his net worth at around $400 million, although it's likely lower. If convicted on all 3 charges, Diddy could face life in prison. A hearing held on March 14th officially arraigned Diddy for the superseding indictment's allegation of forced labor, and Diddy pled not guilty. Jury selection will begin in the coming weeks of the recording of this episode, and the grand jury will continue to hear testimony to decide what goes to trial. And we will also add other co-conspirators to the show notes if they are named. So we'll try to add updates to this video, especially as the trial unfolds, if anything big that varies from what we talked about today happens. And then we'll probably do a little bit of obviously do an update later on.
Yeah.
Maybe not to this long of a capacity unless
I don't know.
Major
if we're
stuff.
Doing trial coverage, it's probably going to be double. We might have to even do like 2 parts. Who knows?
Holy smokes.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot. So, but that's it for now, at least for the next couple of months. Can't believe how quick this is coming up. I really thought it was going to end up being delayed, but I'm happy it's going to happen quicker than later. Sooner than later.
Probably won't be televised or anything.
It won't.
No,
it's
New York.
Yeah.
But there will be plenty of court reporters, so we will get pretty regular updates just about every day on what is shown.
I'm sure this will be the #1 story.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
On the news once this starts up.
Probably daily coverage on multiple channels and shows and stuff. But
Sounds like from just some of the other jail calls and stuff, it seems like he's not thrilled. Not thrilled being in prison right now.
Of course he's not. And hopefully I don't know. I really hope he gets life, but we'll see. I don't know.
Man.
These people tend to have a way of getting out of shit. But I don't know. Let's just all cross our fingers that he does not. But that is going to be it for today's episode. We definitely want to hear your thoughts on everything that we went over today.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot to process.
It was a lot to process. God, we've done hours of coverage now between this episode and the last one.
Speaking of which, if you want more of the going way, way back, like to the beginning of Diddy and some of the earliest crimes, our other episode, which actually happens to be, I think, first or second top episode on our YouTube channel, which is kind of crazy.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. That's out there as well. So we'll have links for that that you can go check out. But yeah.
Thanks, Ian, once again for digging through this disgusting mess.
I mean, to put all all of these legal.
It's confusing.
It's a lot.
Disturbing.
It's a lot.
Anytime, guys. Anytime.
You're the best.
Yeah, I love you guys. It's all good.
We love you.
Yeah.
We love you. We love you all. We love you too, Janelle.
Oh, Janelle, what about you?
Too.
Do you still love? I'm just kidding.
What?
After all these years,
putting you through
never
Diddy
loved
coverage.
you more.
Aw.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys next time. Till then.
Keep on taking your mind away.